So, where do our ideas about the mind really come from? We tend to think of psychology as this clean science, born in a lab with white coats and clipboards. But what if I told you its roots are also found in the seance room? Yep. Today, we're digging into the wild, surprising, and totally hidden link between 19th century Spiritism and the very foundations of modern psychology.
Sounds pretty radical, doesn't it? But this quote points to a forgotten piece of history that, honestly, challenges a lot of what we assume about mental health. So let's dive in and see just how deeply these two fields are intertwined. It's more connected than you think.
All right, so let's jump back in time to the 19th century. This was an age of incredible scientific discovery, right? But bubbling up right alongside it was spiritualism. And this wasn't some fringe belief system hiding in the corners. No, it was a massive cultural and intellectual force, attracting some of the sharpest thinkers and scientists of the day. Now, what's so fascinating about this timeline is that spiritualism didn't just come before psychology. It grew up right alongside it. They were contemporaries. And this created this amazing environment where the non-physical parts of the mind, consciousness, the soul, you name it, were taken seriously and actually investigated.
And here's a crucial point. The founders of Spiritism weren't just asking for blind faith. No way. They were demanding investigation. They saw their work as a kind of complementary science, one that aimed to study the soul with the same level of rigor that others were applying to the physical world. Okay, so what did psychology actually get from this whole movement? Well, you're probably going to be surprised by how familiar some of these next ideas sound. At the heart of Spiritist doctrine is this idea of the perispirit. The easiest way to think about it is like a subtle, energetic blueprint of our physical body. It was seen as the essential bridge connecting our immortal spirit to our, physical, material self. And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Decades, literally decades before Freud and Jung made the unconscious a household name, Spiritism was describing the perispirit as a living archive, a record of everything we've ever done, the true seat of who we really are. Sound familiar? I mean, listen to this quote. Our spiritual body is a complete history. It is such a powerful parallel to the idea of the unconscious being this vast storehouse for all the experiences that have shaped us, often without us even realizing it. Next up is this concept of mental fluids. Now, Spiritism proposed that your thoughts aren't just these abstract little things floating in your head. No, they're actual forces, energy that radiate out from you, creating a kind of field that could directly impact your physical and mental health. Just think about that for a second. Today, we talk all the time about how stress gives you headaches or how trauma is stored in the body. Well, over a century ago, Spiritist writers were already describing how feelings like anger and guilt could create destructive vibrations that might lead straight to disease. So where are all these ideas now? Well, after kind of going underground for 100 years, they're absolutely popping back up in modern therapy, a lot of the time without anyone even realizing where they came from. I mean, you can see this legacy everywhere once you start looking. Transpersonal psychology is all about our spiritual dimensions. Jungian analysis uses symbols to talk to the unconscious. And the entire holistic wellness movement, that mind, body, spirit mantra, is a direct echo of the way Spiritism saw the human being as a whole. This quote just nails a core idea that carried over into modern therapy. The goal isn't to force a belief system on someone. It's about respectfully and trustingly walking with them on their own unique inner journey. And that shift is everything. It's a move away from rigid dogma, away from saying, here's what you must believe, and toward empowering people to find their own meaning from their own experiences. That's a huge pillar of both spiritualist philosophy and so much of modern humanistic therapy. Okay, but let's be real for a second. We can't ignore the messy parts. This history is not some simple, clean story of inspiration. There were, and still are, some pretty big challenges and totally valid criticisms to talk about. This is the million-dollar question, right? And what's so surprising is that if you go back and read the actual Spiritist texts, they were acutely aware of these dangers right from the very beginning. Their own writings are just filled with warnings. Warnings against being deceived, warnings against getting obsessed with flashy phenomena instead of focusing on personal growth, and even warnings about what we'd now call spiritual bypassing, using these lofty ideas to avoid doing the hard psychological work. So the distinction here is absolutely critical, and it really all boils down to your intention. Is the goal to genuinely grow as a person through careful, critical inquiry, or is it just a search for sensationalism and an easy way to escape personal responsibility?
So, where does all this leave us today? As we look toward the future of mental health, what can we actually learn from this forgotten history? It really feels like we're coming full circle. For about 100 years, mainstream psychology was pretty focused on seeing the mind as just the brain. But now it's cautiously starting to ask those bigger questions again. Questions about consciousness that Spiritism was tackling head-on. And get this just shows how serious they were about the science part of their philosophy. This wasn't just mystical belief. These thinkers were actively trying to build rational, scientific models for non-physical realities, even trying to describe the spirit in scientific terms. The founder of Spiritism, Allan Kardec, he put it perfectly. He didn't see these two fields as enemies. He argued they complete each other. He imagined a future where they'd work together to give us a much more complete picture of what it means to be human.
And this is really the ultimate point. This isn't about replacing science with spirituality, not at all. It's about integration. It's about enriching our understanding of ourselves by combining the rigor of science with the undeniable reality of our own profound inner experiences.
So this leaves us with the ultimate question. A question that was once whispered in seance rooms is now being seriously considered in laboratories and therapy offices. It invites every single one of us to rethink the boundaries of what we know and to explore the deepest frontiers of our own consciousness. And what we find there? Well, it might just change everything.